Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and welcome back to day number 9 of March Madness. Today's page map sketch comes from April of 2019. I pulled out my Simple Stories Say Cheese Wild collection, which I do believe this is still available, so I will link it below from scrapbook.com. For my background piece of paper, I decided to pull out this Echo Park paper. It is from the Pinstripes and Petticoat. I do believe I got this from Tuesday Morning, and it was in like a pack of 25. It's like yellow on one side and like a cream color on the other, so perfect for a background piece of paper, and so glad that I have 25 of them. When I purchased these collections, I was super excited about having the availability of specific Disney papers. These are smaller collections, so there's not a lot of paper to it. So I am actually going to bring in several pieces of solid cardstock to help support my layout. The sketch does call for a 4x6 photo on the left-hand side of the layout. So I did pull out my Simple Stories photo crops to help me kind of with the placement in regards to how large I wanted that paper that's going to be on the far right-hand side. I am going to piece this layout together because I knew that I really only needed one sheet of that yellow cardstock for my background paper. So I did cut the stripe paper at 2.5 inches and use some washi tape on the back of it. For the right hand side of the layout, the floral paper is going to be 10 inches long, and so I will have the yellow paper on top of that as well, and then using the washi tape. So this is a great way for you to save some paper if you maybe only have one sheet of cardstock, or if you are wanting to conserve your paper. Once I got the background down, I decided to figure out the piece that's on the left-hand side of the paper. And at first I thought about using the back side of that yellow paper, but I wasn't really liking that. So I did take a break from it and I moved over to this glittery paper. I pulled out my Bumpy Road border punch and created 2 borders to add to the left and right-hand side of the layout. I did cut those at about 1/4 inch. It really kind of didn't measure it. It was just wherever it looked nice. And then I'm going to use some adhesive to add it down on the layout. And spoiler alert, I put this down backwards. So I'm going to have to bring this up here in just a few minutes. I don't know what I was thinking in regards to it. I just really wasn't paying attention to the sketch at all. And then when I started to put the strip on the right-hand side of the layout, that's when I realized that the left-hand side was the wrong way. Because my thought was that the way that the sketch looked was the yellow piece in the center was kind of framed by the glittery paper, and so the borders needed to be facing out, and I had the one on the left facing inward, and I went to put down the one on the right, and that was also going to be facing towards the right, so it wouldn't have looked right. But eventually I did get it all down, and now the kind of background is complete. I was looking at the paper trying to find some paper that would work, and I was actually video chatting with Nicole, and I was telling her, why did they put the best B-sides of the paper back on the cards? Because I'm afraid, especially in the first layout that I'm working with, to use the B-sides, because then I'm like, I may need the cards in the future. And then I was also telling her that there's not a lot of paper in here. There is no repeated patterns at all. There is 12 sheets, but it's all different patterns. So it is hard to pick the one that I wanted to use, especially since I'm going to be using a large portion of it. So I did go back to that cream paper and think, maybe I could use that, but I just wasn't liking the way that it looked with the yellow. So one of the things that I have really been challenging myself this month is to use up more of my cardstock. So I did pull out the pink cardstock, and this was actually the paper that I wanted to use in the beginning. I went through my papers before I turned the camera on, but I only had one sheet of it, and now looking back, I probably could have used it. I was going to use it in place of the yellow, but I do end up using it on this layout in a different aspect. I go back through my pink paper trying to see if there's anything else that I could use, because I really wanted to incorporate more pink, but wasn't liking that. Then I started to look through my blue paper, and I left all of this in so that I could show you guys how much cardstock I have. It is ridiculous, the amount, and that's really why I'm challenging myself this month to use cardstock as my background paper. I finally ended up pulling out an 8.5 by 11 paper pack from Hobby Lobby. I pulled out this green, which was not what I really wanted. I really wanted pink, but I do like the way that the green looks, and this is a layout about Animal Kingdom, so the green kind of goes. These are more photos of me on a solo trip at Animal Kingdom. There are days when I just like need to get away and spend a day by myself at the parks, especially like after a long week or just, you know, life isn't going the way that I want it to. So I go to the parks and spend the day there. I always ask Eli if he wants to go with me, but he's moved into his teenage years where it's not cool to go to Disney anymore, which that's fine. He doesn't have to go with me. I am perfectly okay with going by myself and just spending the day doing what I want to do. So these photos are just of me at the park. I have a couple of photos that I took in front of the Tree of Life, obviously photos in front of the park sign, and then there's photos from the safari. I don't always take photos in the safari because I've ridden it a lot. So when I take photos, it's normally because there are really good shots of the animals. So that's what those photos are. And I am going to use some flip-flops because I don't feel like I need to showcase all of the photos all over my layout. I also got a picture with Doug and of course enjoyed yummy food while I was there. I did pull out this 3x4 card that says having a wild time, and I'm going to use that as a flip-flop as well. And I like the fact that it is the same floral print as the background paper because then it just kind of ties everything together. For the left-hand side of the layout, I did decide to double mat my photo. I first matted it on the yellow, which is the background paper, and then when I laid it down, I wasn't liking it, so I am going to double mat it here in just a second. When I went to put the adhesive on the back of the green cardstock, I don't know if the paper had faded or if this was like a design on the paper. The back of the paper has this like faded look to it, but I really liked it. And I turned the other one over and realized that it was also on the back of that one. So I just went with it and decided to go with that more faded look. It almost looks as if like it's a tone-on-tone leaf print, almost like if it was a really close-up print of the leaf. But I thought it gave it a little extra texture. I did pull out my flip-flops for this layout. I'm going to end up with a total of 4 flip-flops. Over on the far right-hand side, flat to the layout, is a picture of me in front of the Animal Kingdom with a magic shot of Timon and Pumbaa. In that flip-flop on the top, I'm going to have that having a wild time card. And then behind it, I have a magic shot with the hyenas from Lion King. Then for the photo right next to it, which is the photo of the drink that I had while I was there, in the flip-flop, I'm going to have one of the food items that I have, and then on the top will be the drawing that I drew at the animation experience. And then I'm actually going to have 2 flip-flops of some animals that I saw on the safari, and those are going to be in the center. So I'm going to get a total of 16 photos on this layout, and I feel like this is one of those ways where you can get a lot of photos. All of my photos are 3x4, so they are a little bit smaller, but 16 photos is a lot, and I think that's going to be the theme of these photos throughout this month, is getting a lot of photos on the layout. I am using a lot of flip-flops this month as well, because I'm worried that I'm going to run out of flip-flops. And I bought a ton of flip-flops before Close to My Heart went out of business. All right, I did decide to put that photo of me in front of the Animal Kingdom sign up on Fun Foam just to give it a little separation from the rest of the photos. And I did struggle with getting it straight. When I put my stamping block on top of it, it did move a little bit, so I had to pull out my T-square ruler. I thought about matting the photos on this light pink paper, but wasn't really liking that. So I did pull out the darker green, and I really like that. So the photo is going to be matted on the yellow, which is the background paper, and then this dark green. And then when it's sitting on that lighter green, the contrast that it gives is just so beautiful. So I did pull out my layering guides to create a layer around the photos, and then I started to look through the cards, and instead of adding an embellishment cluster there, I decided that I was going to start out with this 4x6 card that has a bunch of different signs on it that's pointing to a bunch of different things that are happening at Animal Kingdom. So it has the safari, the rapids, the Mount Expedition, Jungle Trek, Dino Bones, and the Exploration Trails. So it is Simple Story's way of using some of the terms without being copyrighted. I then decided to pull out this die, and I'm not exactly sure where I got this die. I've had it for a long time, and I don't even know that I've ever used it. It is like a file tab die, so you add it to the top of your paper, so for this particular cardstock, and it just cuts out a little file tab at the top. So I cut that out, and then I'm going to go ahead and add this 4x6 card to it. The sketch does call for this kind of pattern paper in the background to be spread across both layouts, but not fully. Like, it's only like half an inch on the right hand side of the layout. I did struggle a lot with trying to get this 4x6 card down straight. I'm not sure if the paper wasn't straight or the card wasn't straight, but I pulled out my T-square ruler, and maybe it wasn't my eyes being straight, but the T-square ruler was telling me that it was straight, and when I was looking at it, it did not look straight. I just went with it. I was like, it is what it is at this point. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned when I am creating these videos a day, is that sometimes it's okay that they're not perfect. It's more about getting the photos down on my layouts and getting some journaling done, getting them in my albums. This is the third round that I've done for this type of video a day. I have 2 other series on my channels, and I have not even put a dent in the amount of photos that I want to scrapbook. So having this challenge of making sure that I'm getting you guys a video a day has really kind of opened my eyes a little bit to say, they don't have to be perfect, and that's perfectly okay. I'm probably the only person in the world that's going to notice that that 4x6 card isn't straight. The people who are going to be enjoying my layouts are looking at the photos, and the decorations are there to enhance it, but they're not there to be perfect. All right, so now I feel like I have the kind of background of the paper done, and I'm going to start to embellish. I did pull out the foam adhesive, and I added a little tree trunk thing to the top there, and I'm going to add some of the leaf stickers behind the foam piece. And I feel like it really does kind of add to the dimension of that little tree piece. And then over on the right hand side, I am going to journal in that area, but I wanted to also add a couple of the foam adhesive pieces. I really thought about like bringing the florals from the background to the foreground. So I added a couple of flat leaf stickers, and then I added the 2 flowers that were from the foam stickers. And I was really trying to make sure that I left enough space to be able to journal with it. The video did cut off at one point, but I did add the tree as well as some of the animals down at the bottom. And I think that it really beefed up that 4x6 sticker. Down at the bottom, I decided to add my title. It's going to be Wild Adventure, and that pulls straight from the sticker sheet. I did decide to take that word wild and put some foam adhesive behind it so it sticks up a little bit. The word adventure is a flat sticker, but I like how it has the white background to it. And with it being flat to the layout and then having the wild up on the foam adhesive, it really does bring those 2 titles together. And I like that the title has that mixed font feel to it. And I just used the stickers from the sticker sheet. One of the things that I love about Simple Stories is they have so many different textures with their collection. So they have the sticker sheet, they have the foam, they have the brads, and you really can create so many dimensions with your layouts by using all of the different aspects that Simple Stories comes out with. Since I had the animals down at the bottom, I thought, why not put some animals in the trees as well? So I added a little bird up at the top, and I did put him up on fun foam so he kind of is the same level as the foam. And then I found a monkey, and I was like, well, that's perfect. So I went ahead and added him. He is flat to the layout, so it looks kind of like he's behind the tree a little bit. I then pulled out this word stickers that says The Wildlife and added that right next to the tree. I also added a word sticker over on the right that says love this, and it's pointing to Rafiki. I was actually at the animation experience waiting to get in line for the next experience, and Rafiki came out. I was super excited about that, to be able to get photos with him. And since I had the word phrases in 2 of the other clusters, I decided to add it up to the top, and that one says Wild Times. I then pulled out the adhesive brads and added an adhesive brad to each one of the clusters. And recently I picked up a Peachy Cheap deal. I look at the Peachy Cheap deal every single day. They have a deal that only lasts for 24 hours, and I'm always looking to see if it's something that I absolutely need. And this particular Peachy Cheap deal was for a bunch of Simple Stories enamel dots. And I do think that I'm going to leave them separate Like I'm not going to cut them up and put them in my color boxes just yet because they are Simple Stories colors and they're going to match perfectly with the collections that I'm going to be using here shortly. So the ones that I pulled out are actually from the Simple Vintage Spring Garden, and they are glossy enamel dots. But I felt like they worked really well for this collection. And then that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I did do my journaling offline, and it says, just another day filled with adventure at Animal Kingdom. I had the pleasure of meeting Rafiki and Doug, and I even got to sketch Pumbaa during the animation experience. Naturally, a visit wouldn't be complete without enjoying a ride on the safari. All right, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.